Nathar inna shire mula se de phala ho Om Ai Namo Guru Benzadrika Telo Cha Nathar Inna Shire Mula Guru Mahamudra Se de Phala ho
Dear brothers and sisters, welcome to lesson 2 of Gongchig by Venerable Khenpo Rangdol. Without further ado, we invite Khenpo Rangdol to say a few words before he begins lesson. So we invite Khenpo Rangdol.
Yes, I hope it's clear.
Yes, Khenpo, you're on
okay.
spotlight, so everybody will see you.
Jim, so please let me know once our brother Vietnamese Townsend is already there, then I can begin with the text, okay?
All right.
Okay. Good afternoon and good evening and good morning to all our Dharma brothers and sisters. I just would like to say a few words before we begin the actual lesson today, because still we are waiting for our Vietnamese translator. I hope you enjoy with our previous the lesson about the Gongchig, and today is the second lesson. One thing that I would like to remind you to think about that you should not have too much expectation to learn from this lesson very detailed about Gongchig. Because since we have very limited time, within the 15 lesson, actually, we're supposed to cover this root text of Gongchig. So therefore, I cannot go through in detail. And however, and I'm sure you will get to know about something about the Gongchig. And then, of course, if you're really interested to learn about Gongchig, and then I just had a discussion along with yesterday our the translators. So in the future, of course, I mean, no matter how many students would like to study, but I just would like to start teaching about Gongchig in the future just through one of the commentary, so that you will get to know in detail. Sometimes, if we have too much expectation, and then sometimes if you don't satisfied with understanding of the meaning of Gongchig or anything, and then sometimes we get disappointment, so we always disappointed. So therefore, it is very important that we should not have too much expectation, Therefore, whenever I visit to different places, different countries, and I always share my advices to my brothers and sisters during my lessons. It is very important that we always have to keep thinking positively, and we always try to be always in a positive mind, so that everything turns into positive. And at the same time, also, we always have to have our kind of like determination and kind of confidence, so that we can achieve everything, whatever we want to in our life. And at the same time, also, we have to put our effort to do any kind of activities without putting our great effort, so we cannot achieve our goal. So therefore, in order to learn about Gongchig, just sharing some of my words, you cannot understand in detail. But in order to understand, of course, you have to study, as I mentioned during last session. Then if you really want to study, then you have to get some commentaries, and then also you have to go through those commentaries, and then also you will get to know more and more. And then also, we should not have too much expectation. So therefore, be positive thinking and be confident, and do your best, with effort. And then also, we should not expect too much, This is not only, I'm talking about during the lesson, but anyway, in our life, during our life journey, we should not have too much expectation, and then sometimes we get disappointed through that. So we just have to learn this way. Brother James, is there our Vietnamese translator already there or not yet?
Oh, yes, Khenpo. Let me just make him a co-host and an interpreter now.
So he's there, yeah?
Yes, he's already here already.
Okay,
yes,
okay. Then
we're ready.
Okay, then I just begin with my short prayer. Thank you, Lord. Okay, so I hope all of you have the root text. So then, as last time, I just would like to go through the root text of the Gongchig, and I do like to give some explanation about some importance of the Gongchig. But actually, since we have very limited time, I better to stick on the root text. Last time we managed to cover till the 7th, the Vajra statement from the first chapter, the Dharma will, the will of Dharma. And today, the Vajra statement of 8.1 is, the people claim that the Dharma will of the Four Truth is the Abhidharma and not the Vinaya. This is the others' view, what they talk about this regarding the Fourth Truth. And then Jigten Sumgon, the view is the Vinaya Pitaka is the Dharma will of the Four Truths. So I'm sure all of you know about the Four Truth. It is important to know that what is the difference between the Four Truths and Four Noble Truths. Sometimes, of course, we just call Four Truth, and sometimes also we call Noble Truth. In a sense, the Four Noble Truth means, actually, we always hear about the meaning of Four Noble Truths, and I'm sure many of you already knew about Four Noble Truths, but yet we did not have such a, the experience and such a deeper knowledge about the Four Noble Truths. So therefore, the practitioner, the practitioner who reach already certain kind of stages, like above the first bhumi level, the practitioner we call noble person. So that means in Sanskrit it's called araya. Araya is called, the Tibetan called Papa. So that means the noble one. Only the noble, the practitioner, they could understand the deeper meaning of Four Truths. So therefore, we always call Four Noble Truths. I'm sure many of you already read about the jewel ornament of liberation. They are also mentioned that the subtle kind of like the suffering, we ordinary people, we cannot experience the subtle the suffering. There was one example that if there is one piece of hair in our hand, so we cannot feel anything, you know. So the piece of hair, it goes into our eye, so we get some kind of like uncomfortable and we cannot see properly because of irritation of that's caused by the piece of hair. So that's the example. The meaning is like that the noble, the person, the noble, the realization master, they can feel and they can see and they can experience the subtle amount of the suffering as is it that the hair goes into our eye. So they can see the subtle amount of suffering. But actually we always talk about the Four Noble Truths, and it seems that we are very familiar about the Four Noble Truths. The people claim that the Four Noble Truths is actually belong to the Abhidharma. Of course, all the Buddha's teachings are summarized into three categories, which are three Pitaka, or sometimes we call three baskets, the Vinaya basket, and Sutraya, and Abhidharma. So in order to tame our epileptic emotions such as anger, attachment, and ignorance, in order to subdue those epileptic emotions, and then Buddha taught all the teachings of Buddha in summarize of these three baskets. So therefore, since this chapter is talking about the wheel of Dharma, so first time that when Buddha Shakyamuni, he trained the Dharma wheel at Varanasi, he talked about Four Noble Truths. So therefore, some master or some people say that the Four Noble Truths is actually belong to the Abhidharma Pitaka, because in the Abhidharma, the Four Noble Truths kind of explain in very detail the classifications of the Four Noble Truths, characteristic of the Four Noble Truths. So there are so many kind of definition for Four Noble Truths. Those definition and characteristic are explained well in detail in Abhidharma. So therefore, the Four Noble Truths is belong to the Abhidharma Pitaka. So that's the what the view the people say like that. But the Jigten Sumgwan's view is that the Vinaya Pitaka is the Dharma wheel of Four Truths. Because Jigten Sumgwan, reason why he say is that in the Vinaya, the Pitaka is also mentioned in very detail how to abandon this negative epileptic emotions, and how to abandon the negative karma, and how to apply all those the virtues and things. So basically, the meaning of the Four Noble Truths is also summarized into two: what are we have to reject it, and what are we have to accept it. Basically, the suffering and cause of suffering, the noble truth which we have to reject it, because the suffering, of course, nobody wants suffering. Therefore, we have to we have to get to know what are the sufferings. And then, of course, secondly, we have to find out the cause of the suffering, that which we have to abandon the cause of the suffering. So that means these two are actually supposed to be rejected. And then other than that, also, in order to abandon the cause of suffering, we have to apply the path, which is the noble path. And then, of course, through the practicing of the path, then we can achieve the cessation, which is the ultimate, the goal, which is we call also as nirvana. So therefore, the two noble truth is actually we supposed to be accepted, that we have to apply in our daily life. So therefore, in the Vinaya actually teachings, all the rules that what the Buddha made for the monks and nuns, and whatever the subject that Buddha taught in the Vinaya is basically categorized into two, which are supposed to reject it and which are supposed to accept it. So that's the very clearly mentioned in the Vinaya. And one of the Vinaya texts, the Buddha mentioned that one occasion the Buddha was talking to his assembly, his audience, and the Buddha said that the difference between you and me, example, you are saying that the difference between you means his disciple, you and me, actually both you and me is same, but the only difference is that I understood in detail about Four Noble Truths, which you are not. So that means in the Vinaya also mentioned very clearly the teachings about the Four Noble Truths. So therefore, Jigten Sumgön, he emphasized on that the Four Noble Truths is also mentioned in the Vinaya. It is also important to know that it doesn't mean that the Four Noble Truths is not mentioning in the Abhidharma. Abhidharma also well explained about the Four Noble Truths. But what Jigten Sumgön wanted to say is that we should not stick with particular topic. So our mind should be more flexible, so we can ready to accept everything. And so one should not be too much one should not be too much narrow-minded. That is, I think, what Jigten Sumgön he wants to express. So the basically all we have to practice is that we have to follow middle way. So we should not be too much we should not stick too much on the particular topic. So our mind should be broad mind, and our mind should be very open-minded, so that our mind should be free from many extremes. That's what Jigten Sumgön wanted to say. I hope that the part is a bit clear for you. And now the ninth Vajra statement is, people often claim that the teachings of the various vehicle are the middle dharma will, while the absence of characteristics teachings reveals the definitive meaning. And that is the others' view. And then the Jigten Sumgön view is the vehicles teach the dharma will of definitive meaning. Okay, so this is actually talking about they're talking about the three wheels of dharma. That first time Buddha Shakyamuni trained the dharma wheel at Varanasi, that considered as a first dharma wheel, and then second one is at Rajgiri, and the third one is Kushinagar and many other places. And then most people, they believe that the first time when Buddha Shakyamuni taught the Dharma will as Four Noble Truths is specifically he taught to the lower vehicle, which means actually Hinayana. So therefore, that teaching is kind of indefinitive, the meaning, because the Buddha talked about the Four Noble Truths. He says that there is cause and effect, and if you do this, you will get this kind of result. If you manage to practice the path, then you will get the result as a cessation. So likewise, the Buddha never talked about the emptiness. So he just basically he talked about the Four Noble Truths, that everything exists, So especially he designed for the lower capacity, which is actually the lower vehicle. And then at the Rajgiri, the Buddha talked about the emptiness in the sutra. Actually, there are many kind of classification about the emptiness, external emptiness, inner emptiness. So there are 16 emptiness, 20 different kind of emptiness. So which we don't have time to explain all those are in detail. So at Rajgiri, so Buddha talked a lot about mainly the meaning about the emptiness. So I'm sure many of you already heard about the Heart Sutra teachings. There is no mention, there's no eye, there's no ear, there's no nose, there's no mouth. In this case, I have a small joke to share with you. I have sometimes also the joke is kind of relevant for you to make a wake up call. Sometimes actually the listening to teaching is quite boring, when we listen to the music, and then also it's kind of it's wake up. Okay, now I can see all of you. So it's okay, that's good. Now when I see all of you, then I also feel that I'm sharing with you. The last time I just only on screen only appear my image, so then I don't feel comfortable whom I'm sharing the teachings. Now I could see all of you there. Okay, there was a joke actually in Ladakh. One Buddhist monk, so he was reciting this Heart Sutra. In the Heart Sutra mentioned there's no eye, no ear, no ear, no eye, no nose, no mouth. So he was just reciting the Heart Sutra, and one of his non-Buddhist friend, actually the one Muslim friend, was listening to him. And then when he heard that the monk was listening, the monk was reciting the Heart Sutra, saying that there's no eye, no ear, no mouth, and no etc. And then he jokingly told that monk, why you are, saying that each of the organ there's no eye, no ear, no mouth. It's simply you can just mention that there's nothing above the neck, So when we said, if we say there's nothing exists above the neck, means it's include all other like eye and nose and etc. So it's just kind of like simple job to share with you. Okay, what I was talking about. Okay, that is actually the second Dharma wheel is actually talking about the meaning of emptiness. So that's basically the Buddha designed for the higher capacity, the practitioners such as like we call it Mahayana. So therefore, many masters or many people, they believe the first Dharma teachings shows that indefinitive meaning. And then the second, the Dharma wheel of teachings, it shows kind of a definitive meaning, which is because Buddha only talked about the emptiness. And then the third, the wheel of Dharma teachings, there are various kind of like the vehicles. During the wheel of teachings time, there's a Bodhisattva, the Mahayana, and Hinayana, and Shavakayana, and Pratyeka Buddha, and there's so many various kind of the vehicles are there. So therefore, the master, they believe that the various vehicles is not definitive meaning, it is indefinitive meaning. So but the Jigten Sumgon, his view is that the vehicles teach the Dharma, the wheel of definitive meaning, that during the third Dharma wheel of teachings, the Buddha clearly talk about the definitive meaning. So that means ultimate, the true. Basically, the Jigten Sumgon, he says that the first time Buddha only talked about the Four Noble Truths, that he mentioned everything exists. And then second time, the Buddha talked about the emptiness. So that means there's nothing exists truly. So I'm basically talking about the emptiness. And then the teachings of non-dualistic teachings, we call it like the unity of bliss and emptiness, unity of clarity and emptiness, unity of what do you call it? External appearances and emptiness. So those kind of the unity teachings, mainly the non-dualistic teachings, are only Buddha taught during the third wheel of Dharma. So therefore, the Jiten Samgon, his view is that the various vehicles that teach the Dharma of definitive meaning. That is what Jiten Samgon wanted to say. Now the 10th, the Vajra statements is, the people claim that since the Buddha taught all statements as meaning requiring the further explanation, definitive meaning, and so on. So on means actually is talking about the 6 positions, and that I will explain later on. The Tathagata taught some of these statements as a skillful lie. That's what other masters they say. They explain like that. And then Jiten Samgon, his on the view, or on his the view is anything taught as the 6 positions is only of definitive meaning. Okay, then when we talk about the actually first it is important that we have to know that what are the 6 positions. Actually, all the teachings of Buddhas are summarized, or we can say also categorized into 6 positions. The first one is it says that intentional. The intentional means that sometimes it's also called indirect teachings, and not direct teachings, but indirect teachings is called intentional. Sometimes also, like as a parent, I'm sure many of you must have many experience. Sometimes also you have to use this kind of like indirect language along with your kids, and so sometimes also indirect teachings are very useful for them to lead on certain path. So therefore, the Buddha also talk about the indirect teachings. Example, there's no exist like I and my, and there's no exist ultimately. There's no I, no mine, no my. But even though there's not exist truly I and my, but sometimes also Buddha use my Sangha members, or my places, my Dharma, so and so, So Buddha also used kind of like the my, although the I is not exist there. And then also the second one is we call non-intentional. So that non-intentional means that what the Buddha taught directly. The teaching is, the true teachings. That means actually non-intentional means the Tibetan call intentional one is Gongba, and non-intentional is called the Gongmin. And then the third one is the provisional meaning that is requiring further explanation. Example, like the Four Noble Truths is actually the provisional meaning. So Buddha did not talk about that time ultimate truth, but it need to explain, it need the further requirement of explanation. That kind of the teachings we call, the Tibetan called Tangde. And then the fourth one is definitive meaning, the ultimate meaning that talk about emptiness, so like Mahamudra, great perfection, Dzogpa Khenpo, and Madhyamika. So this kind of, the teachings are actually definitive meaning. And then the fifth one is the literal, the teachings actually, the whatever the Buddha talks, as it is, so that the words, whatever use, like example, if the Buddha said that talking about the Four Noble Truths whatsoever, that kind of the teachings are actually, we call it literal, the teachings. And then non-literal teachings are mainly exist in the Tantra. So Tantra, so I'm sure here in our the teaching there are some actually our Indian my Dharma friends are actually here. And sometimes in India, when we talk about Tantrayana, so that means many people think that the Tantra is kind of black magic or something, So therefore, I always have to use the words that white Tantra. So because in most occasions in India, when we talk about the Tantrayana, then people always think that, there's a Tantra practices means kind of black magic, sort of manipulating other people, or this kind of things, So of course, the mantra or Tantrayana, the teachings are very profound. So therefore, in the Tantrayana teachings, actually, many of the teachings are, it did not explain directly. It means like literal means. Example, some of the Tantrayana teaching mentioned that you have to kill your father and mother. You have to kill your father and mother. So it doesn't mean that you have to kill your father and mother. So therefore, the Tantrayana teachings are actually, we are not allowed to practice without having proper instruction, such as we need to, in order to practice any kind of the sadhana, any kind of sadhana of the Tantra, the deities, we need to have the empowerment from the certain guru. And then also we need to have one lung, which is the transmission. And then also finally, we need to have explanation, which we call, we need to also have explanation. Once we have empowerment, transmission, explanation, and then we can practice on any kind of deities, then you will get to learn everything in detail. And then also without mistakes, you can learn authentically all those tantric teachings. Otherwise, if you don't have, there are actually the many stories, but I don't want to share right now. And then also just by saying this kind of the word that you have to kill your father and mother, then you will be liberated from the samsara, So then there was actually some cases they really killed their father and mother. It doesn't mean that, but you have to kill your attachment and anger. The meaning of the killing the father and mother means you have to kill your own attachment and anger, which cause lots of problems in our life. So that's what the mean. So therefore, that is the kind of non-literal sort of like the teachings. So all the teachings of the Buddha are actually summarized or the categorized into 6 positions, or sometimes we call also 6 limits position. I don't know whether this is right translation, but sometimes also we call 6 limits, the Tibetan called taji. So, but the sum of, the masters, they say that out of 6, 3 of them are definitive meaning. Those are really true, and but the other 3 like non-literal and intentional one, and then other one, the provisional, that provisional meaning that require the further explanation. These 3 are indefinitive meaning. Those 3 things are just Buddha. Buddha talk skillful lie. So that's what other people they say. But the Jigten Sumgun, his view is that anything taught as the 6 positions only of the definitive meaning. The reason why I'm saying is that whatever Buddha shared his teachings, any occasions, any circumstances, to any retinues, so Buddha always tell the truth. But of course, sometimes might Buddha need to use different languages because there are different kind of the people, different kind of like the capacities, different kind of the law and order in the certain places. And then of course the Buddha need to use certain kind of the languages, and also Buddha also need to follow the rules of the country. So therefore sometimes also Buddha need to use in a different way. But what Jigten Sumgun he wants you to say is that whatever Buddha taught, all the teachings are always true and always kind of be ultimate, definite meaning, because the Buddha never tell the lie. Because the one occasion when Buddha Shakyamuni was giving teachings in the assembly to all his retinue, because of course all we know that Buddha has a special, we call that 32 major marks, that what Buddha has and which we do not have, special kind of the qualities that Buddha have, such as like the wheels on his palm and also feet, and also he has different kind of quality. One of the quality from this 32, the major marks, is that Buddha has a very sort of like very unique tongue that similarly the dog has the tongue is very thin and sort of like very red color and also long one. So the Buddha also, the tongue is actually similar to the dog. He has a special, endowed with many qualities. So one occasion, the Buddha showed his tongue in the assembly, and then he asked Ananda. Ananda is one of his close disciples. And Buddha asked, the people who has this kind of tongue can tell lie? So Buddha asked him, then Ananda said, of course not. So therefore the Buddha never lies. Buddha always tell the truth. But of course, sometimes, as I mentioned earlier, sometimes also the kids are, if our kids don't want to go to the schools, and parents also need to use different skills, or maybe giving us some chocolate, or maybe sometimes also need to scold on them to go to school. Sometimes they have to, they have to say very nice things. Oh, okay, if you go to school, then tomorrow I will bring you to market and buy some toys. Like that kind of many kind of skillful way the parents need to deceive them in order to go to the school. But the parents' intention is that really, they want to send their kids to the school to get some better education, not mean for to other reasons, So, and then also sometimes when during the nighttime when the kids are crying, and sometimes also we have to make them scared so that the kids can become quiet, So that's quite often I saw like that. So these are the kind of like the skillful activities. So Buddha always shows some kind of like skillful activity. The skillful activity or skillful the teachings, we cannot judge these teachings are the lie or false. So Buddha never speak false. He always tell the truth. Okay, I hope you understand a little bit of this the meaning. And so today I just I'm a little bit in rush. Actually, as I committed actually in this 15 sessions of teachings of Gongchig, so I wanted to cover all this nearly 200 Vajra statements. And yesterday, actually, I also got some feedback, and I also got email from some of my friends also. They mentioned rather than you teach whole the Vajra statement, maybe you better to stick on certain important points. But then also I feel that it would be nice to just cover whole Gongchig. And then also in the future, if really wanted to study, then as I mentioned earlier, then we can go through, But now just, it is also good to complete. Yesterday we had a meeting along with our translator, and also I shared with them why I wanted to complete this Gongchig during these 15 lessons, because I had some also bad experience earlier time. I studied Gongchig teaching in a center somewhere. I don't want to mention the center name. And then due to some reason also I could not complete it because if you just keep postponing the time to teach another year, then also sometimes the students are actually disappearing. And sometimes also I also got some other busy schedules. So then I feel always bad about that, But Shantideva mentioned clearly in his the way of Bodhisattva life. Once you start to do, anything, then you must try to complete it. Otherwise, you will get some negative habitual tendency on your basic consciousness. So therefore, I try to finish. Let's see how it goes. But the last time I only managed to cover 7 verses. So therefore, at the beginning, as I mentioned to you, you should not expect too much to learn from this lesson, but just learning only a few words is sufficient. Because the Patu Rinpoche, one of the great Tibetan masters who composed one of the very popular commentary on Gongchig, sorry, not Gongchig, this Bodhisattva, way of Bodhisattva life. And he said that he taught 100 times the way of Bodhisattva life to others, and 100 times, more than 100 times, actually, he received the teachings on that text. He said still there are many things to learn, But actually, that the way of Bodhisattva life, this text is actually not that profound. But yet even 100 times he listened, and 100 times he talked to others, but still there's many things to learn, he said. So therefore, just in a short time, studying about Gongchig it is almost impossible to understand everything unless you are very unless you have a kind of like superpower to learn everything in a very short time. So, okay. Okay, now I should stop talking this kind of gossips. Now, the people claim that the instructions of the middle way and the instructions of regarding the mind only teachings are different. And then the Jigten Sumgon view is the Buddha's instructions that teach mind only reveals the middle way. Of course, there are actually the 4 schools in in general in the Buddhism. We call that what do you call that actually in Sanskrit called Vivashika, I think so, and Savatantrika, and mind only is called Chitta Mantra, and then the last one is Madhyamika, which is called middle way. So entire of this, the philosophical schools are actually categories into this the 4, and the 2 are actually belong to the lower capacity, which means called that the lower vehicles. And then the 2, the above one, which is the Chitta Mantra, is the mind only. And then Madhyamika, which is middle way. These 2 are actually belong to the Mahayana, the philosophical side. So the many masters, they say that the mind only, which is the Chitta Mantra, is totally different from the Madhyamika. The reason why they are saying is that because the middle way is actually founded by Nagarjuna. So Nagarjuna is actually supposed to be the founder of the middle way. So he composed many texts. And then the mind only, which is the Chitta Mantra, is actually what do you call that? Tome. Tibetan we call Tome, Vasubandhu, the teacher of Vasubandhu. Sometimes I forget the name of Asanga. Yeah, Asanga, he is actually kind of the founder of Chitta Mantra. So since there are 2 masters found these 2 philosophical view, so it must be totally different, the meaning and different subject. So when people think that there's no the connection between these 2 schools. So therefore people claim that the instructions on the middle way and the instructions on regarding the mind only teachings are different. There's a separate meaning, separate chapter, separate definitions. So there's nothing, they do not have kind of like interconnections. But the Jigten Sumgon, his view is, so it is, the important thing is that I'm sure you also learn about that. The Jigten Sumgon, he is like more flexible one. So he just tried to he don't want to hold on particular extreme. He don't want to express on a very extreme way. He just want to be more flexible way. You see, it clearly can see, because when we will go through the chapter wise and the Vajra statement wise, then later on you will get to know that sometime on those days when Jigten Sumgon time, there must be many Buddhist masters, many practitioners. They always try to stick on particular topic, you know. Like, let's say if the practitioner is practicing Vinaya, they think this is the only path. We no need to practice others like Tantrayana and Buddhism. We only just practicing this is the sufficient, you know. And then sometimes also the practitioner who are practicing Tantrayana, this is the only highest the path of the practice. We do not need any other practices. And so therefore it seems that many masters or many practitioners, they always try to stick on the particular the view. So therefore, Jigten Sumgon, he just wanted to let it go all this kind of limits or this kind of strong view, and just try to be more flexible, try to flow, try to follow on the middle way. I think that is the main, right from the beginning to the end of the Gongchig, you can see the way of expression of the Jigten Sumgon actually like that. So it's not only that if we really wanted to know in detail about this, the meanings, as I mentioned at the beginning, our last session, that each of the Vajra statement actually endow with the 4 logics, that the logic from the Buddha's teachings and from the Guru side and on Jigten Sumgon his experience. So each of the Vajra statements actually endow the 4 logics, but then we don't have time to explain in detail those explanations. But the Jigten Sumgon, why he said that is the mind only, which means the Chitta mantra, why the mind only reveals the middle way is that because Jigten Sumgon, he said that actually one of the sutra is called Lanka Avatara. Lanka Avatara is one of the there are actually the 4 sutra that considered as a mind only, which explain about the mind only, means Chitta mantra. One of them is Lanka Avatara. In the text of Lanka Avatara, it's also mentioned that clearly this is the path of middle way. If the Chitta mantra never talk about middle way, why the Lanka Avatara, which is considered as the Chitta mantra sutra, why they are mentioned this is the path of middle way? That is the one reason that Jigten Sumgon he caused. And then the reason is that Jigten Sumgon mentioned Nagarjuna actually, because of course the Nagarjuna he prophesied from the Buddha's sutra in Tantrayana not only one time, more than 21 times actually the Buddha prophesied the Nagarjuna that by Buddha, and one of the prophecy that for Nagarjuna is actually clearly expressed in the Lanka Sutra, Lanka Avatara Sutra, which is the Chitta mantra. If there's no relation or no interconnection between Chitta mantra and middle way, why the Chitta mantra, the sutra, the sutra, why is give a prophecy of Nagarjuna? So that's actually another one, the reason that Jigten Sumgon mentioned. And then Nagarjuna, he composed one of the middle way, the text called Karika Madhyamika. Actually, that's one of the main important the middle way text. That textbook has 27 chapters, because Lanka Avatara Sutra also have the 27 chapters. Based on that Lanka Avatara Sutra, then Nagarjuna he composed that Karika Madhyamika, I think Karika Madhyamika, that because that also has 27 chapters. So that means there are actually some kind of interconnections. And the Dharmakirti also mentioned in the commentary, he mentioned that when we see the moon, maybe let's say, actually first day moon didn't appear, maybe second day, third day, usually the moon start appearing in the sky, and third day, fourth day, fifth day, still there was kind of not full moon, but we can see the half moon. But on the 15th day, we can see the full moon. So but the third day, whatever we saw the moon, half moon, and then also the later days when we see the full moon on the 15th day, but the moon is the same. The difference is that the size of the moon, maybe other days we only see the half, but the 15th day we see the full moon. But other than the full moon and then the half moon, but the origin of the moon is same. There's no two moon on the sky. There's only one moon. So similar to that way, the what Jigten Sungwan he wanted to say is that apart from the kind of the details of the teachings, there are actually some kind of like interconnection. Maybe in the Chitta Mantra time, there's not mentioned very clearly about the middle way, and in the middle Madhyamika philosophy, they are mentioned more about the middle way, not mentioned much about the Chitta Mantra. Only the differences is like that. Other than that, actually whole teachings are actually interconnected. So that's what Jigten Sungwan tried to mention. As last session, as I gave kind of example that when we go to schools, the first grade, second grade, third grade, actually, of course, there are different subjects, but there are always kind of like interconnections, you know. So there's the linking words and grammar. Many of those subjects are actually, there are some kind of interconnected. So that is similar this way. Jigten Sungwan said that. Now the 12th one is, okay, no, I also have to look at the time. The Vajra statement, the 12th one is, the people claim that the wrong relative truth is not able to perform a function. And then Jigten Sungwan said that wrong relative truth too is able to perform a function. This is quite also another interesting. Usually all the teachings of the Buddha, all the phenomena are categorized into two truths. The first one is relative truth, or sometimes we call also conventional truth. And the second one is ultimate truth. So there's two truths. And within the relative truth, so there are two. One is that's the wrong relative truth, and one is maybe one of them is the wrong relative truth. But the wrong, okay, now what does it mean the wrong relative truth is that whatever we see, the reflection of, let's see, whatever we see the moon on the sky, that is the not wrong relative truth, because this is the real, the moon that we see in the sky, that moon is functionable, that moon gives us light, that moons also give us some kind of like cooling during the summertime. So that is the not wrong one, is the pure kind of moon, which is we consider as a true relative truth. And then the reflection of the moon, which appear in on the water or any kind of like the pot that we fill with the water, we can see the reflection of the moon. So that is the kind of like wrong relative truth. It is truth, but we can see the moon in the water or in the pond, but that moon is not functioning, as it is not producing some kind of like light. That reflection of the moon is not producing some kind of like cooling energy. So therefore it is said that this is the wrong relative truth. So therefore the many masters said that wrong relative truth doesn't performing any action. It is just the truth, but it's not really performing any kind of like action, is not functioning, it is not producing any kind of benefits, it is not kind of like producing any kind of energies. So this is just wrong relative truth. But the Jiten Sungwon, his view is that wrong relative truth also too is able to perform a function. Then he gives, there is a two example. One is a bad example, and one is the good example. In Dharmakirti also give these two stories. Maybe I will just share in a very brief way. Our time is actually running. The good examples of the wrong relative truth is performing a function is one occasion. This great Saraha is one of the great Indian Buddhist master Saraha. So how he got his the realization is one time he was holding one skull, the skull, and then inside of the skull fell with alcohol. That's kind of like beer, I guess. And then when he was, I think he must have reside somewhere near the branch of maybe the forest or somewhere, So then once he was holding the skull in his hand, and then also all the reflections of the trees, the branches appear in this skull. And then when he saw that the reflection of the trees inside the skull, just by seeing it, because of that, he could recognize that, he realized that all the phenomena are not truly existing, such as the reflection of this, the trees, branches inside the skull. Just because of this, the reflection of the trees in the skull, and Saraha, he managed to got such a great the Mahamudra realizations. So that means that's the example of that. Good examples of that. The wrong relative truth also perform a function because Saraha got the realizations. What else we need then that achieving the realization of Mahamudra? That's the ultimate the goal that we all supposed to achieve. And then the bad example is that story is actually mentioned in the Vinaya. It must be true. There was one story that one occasion there was one monkey, then who happened to go to one pond to drink water, and then when the monkey reached to the pond, and then monkey saw that the reflection of the moon, and then of course the animals are actually stupid, they are foolish, and then when the monkey saw the reflection of the moon inside the water, then he thinks the moon is falling into the water. We must protect, we must pull out the moon which is fall into the water. So then that one monkey called to the second monkey, third monkey, then all together there was 500 monkeys gathered together, and then they hold each of their tails, and the last monkey actually the tails bind with the one branch of tree, and then because of the heaviness of this 500 monkeys weight, and then the tree's branch get to break, and then whole monkeys fall into that water and they pass away. That's the kind of like the bad example of that. Just seeing the reflection of the moon, the 500 monkey, there's life lost. So that's been no matter, doesn't matter whether it's the bad example or good example, but Dharmakirti, he said that is the wrong relative truth is actually also performing the function. I hope that is quite, that is kind of like easy to understand. I hope that's clear. Now the 13, the Vajra statement is, the people claim that the Sutra path, the vehicle of characteristics and perfections, advance through the 10 stages, but those who enter awakening at one do not. So that's the other views. And the Jigten Sungwon view is all the paths advance through the 10 stages. This is also quite interesting. This is quite important actually. I think we also do believe in many actually the Mahamudra teachings, many Tantra Yana teachings also do say that if you do, they do say that, you know, so if you really, I mean, have a good, if you have a very good, strong devotion to your guru, and if there's a blessings, your devotion and then the blessings of the guru comes together, maybe in one moment you will achieve the Buddhahood in a very single moment, you know. So there was actually this kind of explanation are there. So because of this kind of explanation, and then some people think that, oh, depending on the practice of Tantra Yana, you no need to go through all the 10 stages. You know, the 10 stages, I'm sure the 10 stages are actually the Bodhisattva, the stages that we have to follow. Like the first stages are, we call it the joyous, and the second one is stainless. The third one is radiance, but I don't want to go on because now we don't have time much. So anyway, there are Bodhisattva, the 10 stages. So many people think that, oh, if you practice Tantra Yana, then in a very single moment, you can achieve enlightened mind. So you no need to go through all the 10 stages. The 10 stages is the Bodhisattva stage, and then 11th one is the Buddhahood. So therefore, some say that only the characteristic means the characteristic vehicle. Actually, we call it the sutra. Sutra vehicles are depending on the 10 stages. And if you engage into the Tantra Yana, so you no need to go through all the 10 stages. You can just, we say like that. If you manage to practice Tantra Yana and properly, you will achieve enlightened mind in single life. If you can't achieve within this single life, you will achieve enlightened mind in the intermediate state in Pardo. And then if you are not able to achieve enlightened mind in the Pardo, and if you manage to keep all the samaya, which we call the samaya means attainment, without breaking those samaya, then you will be achieve enlightenment within the 7 lifetimes, or maybe the 16 lifetimes. You will. It's kind of like the guarantee that you will achieve enlightened mind. That's what Tantra Yana many texts mention. So due to this kind of the meaning, and many people think that Tantra Yana teaching mind no need to go through all the 10 stages. You can just achieve enlightened mind in the single moment. But the Jigten Sumgo's view is not like that. Yes, of course, there are actually some people can achieve enlightened mind faster. Some are very gradually, but only the difference between like the faster and slower. Other than that, actually all have to go through the 10 stages are same. But there is actually, to give one example of that, like if you put the 10 piece of cloth on the wall, and if the strong person should arrow on that, instantly he can pressing to the all 10 the clothes, because he has some kind of like the power. He is the strong man. He can shoot arrow, and immediately within a single moment that he can just the pressing all these 10 the layer of clothes. So therefore we said that, but we said that, oh, he managed to pressing all the 10 layer of clothes in a moment. But the meaning is that, of course, he managed to pressing the 10 layer of cloth in a single moment, but without going through each of them, it cannot reach to the last one. But of course, it's a very fast moment, you know. So therefore, the Chidren Sungwan also said that no matter what kind of the vehicles, whether it's Tantra Yana or Sutra Yana, all the paths are only the differences is that the slower and then the faster all has to go through this and the 10 stages, and 5 paths are equal. There's no excuse. There's no excuse to go in a very, very shortcut way. There are actually the shortcuts, but yet you have to go through, that ways, you know. So that's what Jigten Sungwan. Therefore, I always give examples of the 3 vows, like Vinaya, the vow, the practice is like we will reach enlightened mind finally, but it will take long time. If you go from here to Singapore, since now it is our the Zoom is hosting from Singapore. Let's give an example of Singapore. If you want to go to Singapore by walk, I don't know how many days it will take, maybe months and years. But then if you go by train, there's no connection anyway. But if you go by trains or by car, it will take maybe, I don't know, some days, but you will achieve there. And if you go by air, within, I don't know, I forgot how many, 1 hour, 2 hours, you will reach to Singapore that faster. So therefore, the Vinaya is like we go by our own work, fit. And then the Bodhisattvayana is like we're going through the train or car or something. And the Tantrayana is like going through airplane. But only the faster and then slower, there's a different, but we have to go through all this the way. That's the same, just example for that. Okay, now the 14, the Vajra statements is, the people claim that gradual engagement and all at once engagement are alternative. Actually, this one is actually the same as the before. It's just giving more clarification. And the Jigten Sumgon view is the one engages in all parts gradually. Is the same thing. I think you will understand clearly. It's the same mention that some people think that there is actually the two paths. One we call that gradual one. We call the Rimgi part. Tibetan words we call Rimgi means go by step is called gradual one. And then another part is we call that all at once engagement, means just in a single moment that you can reach to somewhere. That's called the Chikcharwa, mean just one moment. But the people think that is the gradual one. Some people depending on the Sutrayana, then they reach to the enlightened mind in the gradually, step by step. But engaging with this, the Tantrayana is you will reach there all at one engagement. You don't need to have too much time to reach there. But the same as the previous Vajra statement, meaning Jiten Sumgon said that one engage is all parts are gradually. There is no all at one engagement. All need to go gradually. But the only difference is that, as mentioned, the slower and then faster. That is the only matters. Other than that, all need to go through the same way. It's quite easy, same as mentioned before. Now the 14, the Vajra statement is, but actually regarding that regarding that mention, some master they say the gradually reaching to the Buddhahood is the example they give as Nagarjuna. The Nagarjuna he reached gradually, first stage, second stage, third stage, like that way, And then the master of like Saraha, so he just by seeing the reflection of the trees in his skull, he just managed to got his realization in a very single moment. That's the kind of like all-in-one engagement, the example. But some, as I mentioned earlier, but it's only the difference is that the slower and the faster is the different, but then all we have to go through the path. So that's quite easy. I hope you understand. Now the 15, the Vajra statements is the people claim that all of the wills is same as like obscuration, I guess the obscurations. The first abandon the karmic wills, then the wills of mental affliction, and then finally the wills of objects of knowledge. That's the other views. And Jigten Sumgon view is it also occurs that one first abandon the wills of the objects of knowledge. Okay, the brief explanation is what are these three obscurations. The first one is we call the
第一种障碍是业障，就是杀到淫的这些业力、业行，这些叫做
anger, attachment, jealousy. All these kind of obscurations are considered as afflicting emotions or negative emotion, whatever. And then also the last one is a very subtle obscurations, which we call obscurations of objects of knowledge, which are the very subtle one that we have a certain kind of like the grasping, some kind of like the grasping, like we always have, this is table, this is cup, this is house, this is tree. Even this kind of grasping things are actually considered as obscurations. So because of our kind of like negative habitual tendency that we see as our kind of like a reflection on our habitual tendency. So therefore, these are the very, very subtle obscurations. So that the other view said that is most people, they believe when we, up to the first bhumi level, first bhumi means first stage, that's I mentioned the first stage is the joys. Up to the first stage, the practitioner abandon the karmic obscurations. And then up to the 7 stages, and then the second obscuration, which is epileptic emotions, are abandoned or removed. And then during the last stage of the 3, during that time, and then the practitioner abandoned the obscurations of object of knowledge, and then will achieve Buddhahood. That's what the people consider, what they believe or accept. But the Jigten Songkhon, he said that it also occurs, the one first abandon the wheels of the object of knowledge, means in Jigten Songkhon's view, or maybe in the Kagyupa's special, the way of practice is that before abandoning the other 2, the last one, which is the obscurations of object of knowledge, also can be abandoned earlier than other 2. In regarding this matter, there is a story between the Milarepa and Gampopa. The first time when Milarepa met Gampopa, and then Milarepa asked,
Gampopa, Milarepa había conocido a un practicante.
And the first time they are meeting,
Và lần đầu tiên khi mà họ gặp nhau thì ngài Milarepa hỏi rằng là ngài muốn gì, ngài muốn biết cái gì,
how to abandon all these obscurations during the stages. And then Gampopa replied, I learned about the mind training, which we call Hojong.
Aprendió el Lojong, que es el entrenamiento mental, Kadampa. Después la acumulación el camino de la acumulación, el camino de la aplicación,
of the path, and second obscurations, which is epileptic emotion, will be removed. And then up to the first stage, the first bhumi, and then the third one, which is the obscuration of object of knowledge, will be abandoned. So this is how the Kadampa believe or agree. And then Milarepa said, oh, I see. In my ways, I abandon the obscurations of knowledge of object is earlier than other 2. Then Gampopa asked, how about other 2, that which is karmic obscuration and the obscuration of epileptic emotion? How about this other 2? And then Milarepa said, other 2 will be disappear by itself. Then when the Phamodruva is, of course, disciples of Gampopa, and then later on, when Gampopa heard about this conversation between Gampopa and Milarepa, then Phamodruva said, oh, son and the father both are true. He make a kind of like judgment on this conversation. So it means both are true. So this is what the meaning. I hope it's clear. So now, okay, now the 16, the Vajra statement is, the people claim that the valid knowledge, actually the valid is a kind of like paramana, sometimes we call the paramana or logic or whatever. the valid knowledge is not a Buddhist dharma, since it is in common with the Veda of non-Buddhists. The valid knowledge is the gnosis, that is the knowledge of the Buddha. This is quite another interesting, you know. Actually, when we talk about the knowledge, the valid knowledge means actually we call it the debate, the pramana, the logic things. I guess this is the maybe earlier time in the Kagyupa or Nyingmapa systems. In the Gelugpa system, actually, they do lots of study about the pramana, and they do debate, you know. Even in nowadays, they debate sometimes whole night. They keep arguing, debating. We call that Buddhist philosophical kind of like a study, you know. I'm sure many of you have seen like that, they do debate. Maybe in the Kagyupa, in Nyingmapa, they don't practice this kind of pramana very much. I guess maybe those days, those Kagyupa masters might they say that, oh, the argument or this kind of logics are only designed during that time when in India, when the Buddhist masters and non-Buddhist masters are arguing each other in order to defeat their views. Those days, actually, the non-Buddhist the master, they compose this kind of the valid knowledge texts. These are not real the practice of the Buddhist side. So therefore, we have to abandon, we have to reject it, those kind of valid knowledge. So therefore, they always think that this is not our cup of tea. Actually, kind of the English expression, you know, the pramana or maybe valid knowledge is not cup of our tea, so we should not reject it. This is the only. But it's true in earlier time in India, the Buddhist master and non-Buddhist master, they do debate each other. That is true that when the non-Buddhist master defeated from their debate, and the Buddhist master and all the disciples have to convert into non-Buddhist. If the non-Buddhist, the master is defeated or he lost in his conversation or when they do debate, and then non-Buddhist masters and the followers have to convert into Buddhists. So in this way, actually, those days, maybe during the Nalanda university, when that was exist, that time actually the Buddhist master and non-Buddhist master, they do debate, and in this way, actually they follow the valid knowledge. So, but the Jigten Sumgun says that the valid knowledge is the gnosis. Gnosis means kind of like wisdom. This is the wisdom of Buddha. So we should not ignore it. We should not reject it, that kind of valid knowledge. We have to practice it, we have to study, we have to apply, we have to do contemplation on it. So because the valid knowledge is the gnosis of the knowledge of the Buddha, the basic, the meaning of the gnosis, the valid knowledge is kind of valid cognitions. So therefore, the valid knowledge means actually non-deceiving. It's a true meaning one. The non-deceiving, the wisdom is only endowed within the Buddha, not other than Buddha have the true kind of like the knowledge, which is a non-deceiving one. So therefore, the Jigten Sumgun, he said that we have to listen to it, we have to study and contemplate, and also have to apply into our practices as valid knowledge, which is logic. And then the 17th one is actually the similar one. It's just, again, clarification with the previous one, the 17th Vajra statement. The people claim that the valid knowledge is a refutation of inferior philosophical tenets. Tenets means same as like schools, isn't it? But except for that, there is no result of valid knowledge. As I mentioned earlier, the example I give, only the the valid knowledge, which is the logic or argument, is the only refutation of inferior philosophical views. Apart from that, except for that, there's no any other result. There's no any other achievement that if we just keep studying about logic, or if we just try to implement those teachings into our daily life practices, there's no way to achieve the kind of result. There's no outcome. There's no fruit coming out from that, the study of valid knowledge. So therefore, we have to reject it. We have to just ignore it. I guess many of the Kagyupa or Nyingma master, they just always wanted to remain inside of their meditation cave. They don't want to study. They don't want to learn. They don't want to hear about other subjects. They just only want to focus on Mam Mudra and certain practice, certain meditations methods, So therefore, actually, I think Jiten Sumgun, since he has very open the view, open-minded, and of course he knows everything in very detail, how the valid knowledge are important. So therefore, I think he says here, the result of the valid knowledge reveals the true reality, which means the emptiness, like Dharmadata. So which means so therefore, because the little small example is that when we talk about this, the cognition, actually, the valid knowledge, or we can say cognition, there is actually two cognitions. One is we call direct cognition, and then second one is inferential cognition. The direct cognition is that whatever we see, whatever we hear, whatever we smell, or whatever we touch, we can see, we can hear, we can say this is good, this is bad, this is good, this is not good. We can judge, but just by seeing, just by hearing, this kind of cognition is, we call that the valid cognition, or direct valid cognitions. And then other one is inferential. The valid cognition is like, example, we said that when we saw the smoke, we can judge, or we can prove there must be fire. Without seeing the fire, which is caused, just by seeing the result, which is the smoke, we can prove there must be the fire. So similar to that way, actually, this inferential logic or cognition is also very, very important. So the Jiten Sumgun, what he wants to say is that because the direct cognition, actually, it has 4 aspects. The first one is the cognition of senses, as from eye, ear, etc. And then second one is the cognition of mental, that what we understood from our mentally. And then the third cognition is self-knowing, that we know without depending others, we know by ourselves. That's the third one. And then the fourth cognition is the yogic experience one, which is very important. So these are actually some kind of definition of the valid knowledge, which is the pramana. So Jiten Sumgun, what he wanted to say is there are actually results out of this valid knowledge. It will reveal some kind of good emptiness, the reality meaning of emptiness, because especially when the yogic experience is like when they realize the meaning of emptiness, when they recognize our nature of mind through through this kind of karmic cognitions, so they can learn and they can experience and they get to know so much and so much. So therefore, Jiten Sumgun, he said that the result of valid knowledge is is also reveals the true reality of the emptiness. So that means there are actually results out of valid knowledge. That is one. And now the 18th one is, the Vajra statement 18 is, the people claim that refutation of the various tenets is necessity with Indian non-Buddhists and so forth. But the Jigten Sungwan, his view is all upholders of tenets are own traditional holders. This is also, again, is quite not so difficult. Actually, these are not so difficult. But some people think that, oh, these are the non-Buddhists. We always like to point out. We always like to point out that, oh, there are many tenets, many schools who hold the wrong view. This only exists in India. So we are the practitioner of the Vajrayana, or we are practitioner of Mahayana. All our the views are the excellence, and the schools are excellent, very authentic one, and there's no any kind of like wrong view. There must be many the people or many masters there who holds this way. Even nowadays, actually, there are. They always believe this is my teachings. My teachings is the best than anyone else. This is my own experience. You see. So, but the Jigten Sungwan said that it's not only that we cannot just finger out to others that saying that there are actually such a actually the tenets exist kind of in India or some other places. But Jigten Sungwan said that all upholders of tenets, whatever we hold the view, example, even we hold the view of Mahamudra or great compilation, that Dzogpa Khenpo, if you think that, oh, my view is great still, like Mahamudra, my view is greatest Dzogpa Khenpo, I'm a follower of middle way. If you hold this kind of view, so more or less, you are also same, no matter where you reside, but whether you stay in Tibet or India, whatever, since if you hold this kind of view, so you are already involved into such a kind of like attachment, such a kind of like ego, and it can cause you to arise more attachment, anger, jealousy, more or less same. You cannot only just finger out, you cannot point out on others. We have to experiment within ourselves that what kind of views that we hold. If you hold this kind of views, and then that's also kind of which we have to abandon. Actually, that's the what means of Jigten Sungwan, the view. And then the 19th one is again a similar one. Is not a difficult one actually. The people claim that the complete views, conduct, and the practice of non-Buddhists is only something one must abandon. Is a similar, no? Many people think that, oh, non-Buddhists, whatever their view, whatever their action, whatever their practice, these are the non-Buddhists we have to abandon. Usually we do say, and then also we do think sometimes, you know, but the Jigten Sungwan, he is the great, the unique masters who holds very broad the view, very open-minded one. He said that you should not, abandon everything from the non-Buddhists. There are many good qualities that which we can apply into our practices. That's what Jigten Sungwan wanted to say. You see, he said that we maintain that in the systems of non-Buddhists too, there is much to be practiced that is virtuous by its fundamental nature. Isn't it? This is very clear, very true. Because in this case, Dharmakirti also give one example. because in the Vinaya, actually, this the summer retreat, there's actually three important the ceremony, that confession ceremony, and then summer retreat, and then post-summer retreat. These three things are very important in the Vinayana rules. So actually, the Buddhist monk, they don't practice the summer retreat, but there already exists in the non-Buddhist those the practices. And then during that time, and then the non-Buddhist the people that they start complaining to the Buddhist monks, saying that, look at Buddhist monks, even during the monsoon time, they just keep walking around without protecting those animals. Actually, the remaining in the monastery that practicing the summer retreat means actually in order to protect those insects during the monsoon time, which actually grow. So then the non-Buddhists, the people, they complain on the Buddha's disciple that they are just roaming around, they're not practicing summer retreat. And then Buddha said, oh, now this is the complaint that we receive. We must also start doing this kind of practices. You see, so therefore Jigten Sungmun said that, oh, even the good things, whatever exists in the non-Buddhist, it doesn't matter whether it is wherever exists the good things, we have to apply. We should not reject it, everything, saying that this is the non-Buddhist. Of course, I always share this is very important nowadays. In many other religions, such as like Sikhism, they do a very good practicing of generosity, and also Christianity, they do lots of practice of loving kindness and compassion, which is a great example of that, which we can learn from them. So that's the one. And then the 20th one is, the people claim that the various differences, such as the 4 seals that are signs of the Dharma, are ways to distinguish non-Buddhists, outsider, which means from the Buddhist inside. So this is the meaning that difference between non-Buddhists and Buddhists. The most occasion in our Himalayan region, and the people think that, oh, this is non-Buddhist because the person who wear the mala, oh, they think he is Buddhist practitioner. And then sometimes when the people hang prayer flags or something, or they think, oh, this is the Buddhist, the family, you know. But we cannot judge by just wearing the mala. We cannot say this is Buddhist. I remember one occasion when I was traveling to Germany. I can't remember exactly which year. Actually, one occasion, the mala became so just kind of fashion, you know, everywhere selling the mala, and all the youth, the young people, they're wearing the mala. So I used to, talk like that. We cannot judge by this. So, and of course, nowadays, hanging the prayer flags and those things also become a kind of like fashionable. So some say that, and some say that is the difference between the Buddhist and non-Buddhist is the 4 seals. Actually, the 4 seals means the first one is the all phenomena are compounded, kind of like by impermanence, and then all phenomena are defeeling, and then which is kind of like suffering, and then all phenomena are emptiness, and then the nirvana is the peace. That is the usually we call that the 4 summaries of Dharma or 4 seals. So who believe or who accepted that 4 views are Buddhist, and then who has sometimes some they say who have compassion, those are Buddhists, and who have no compassion, those are non-Buddhists. But the Jigten Sungmun, he says that the difference between between non-Buddhist and Buddhist is the taking refuge. The people who take refuge, those are Buddhists. People who are not taking refuge, those are not Buddhists. It's a very simple one, you know. And Atisha, the Atisha also he believed, and he also mentioned like that way. Okay. So I'm quite happy today. I'm quite managed to finish quite a lot. Maybe just today I like to stop here. The timing is kind of ending, and I'm sure that many of you wanted to go to bed. I think getting late for the Asian people. So, and then I just would like to do my short ending prayer. Then you can also, if you can chant, you can also chant along with me. If not, you can just make your own good wishes for the All Mother sentient beings. And then we can end up this today lesson, and then see you in next lesson on Friday. Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.
Brothers and sisters, you can unmute yourself and say a word of thanks to Khenpo.
Thank you, Khenpo Rangdol.
Thank you, Rinpoche.
Thank you, Rinpoche.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Rinpoche.
Good to see all of you.
Thank you, Rinpoche.
Come to Indonesia again, Khenpo.
Thank you, Rinpoche.
Thank you, Rinpoche.
Usually.
Good night.
Come to Jakarta again.
Thank you, Rinpoche.
Thank you.
Rinpoche.
Good to see you all.
Thank you, Rinpoche. Thank you, Rinpoche.
Live well.
Stay safe.
Touch the leg. See you next Friday. See you next Friday. Good to see you. Okay. Have a good night. Okay. Okay, bye-bye. Now I have to eat my dinner.
Goodbye. See you next week on
Okay, good morning to these people and good afternoon. Thank you. Bye.